Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Mike and Beans. I'm Beans, and I'm with Mike.
What's up?
All right, so the time has come. The NBA Finals have arrived. We will be seeing a matchup between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Phoenix Suns. This is going to be a great matchup, in my opinion. Both teams have been playing phenomenally, and although the Bucks had a little trouble with the Hawks, the Bucks were able to get out and beat the Hawks on the road in Game 6. And despite the Clippers not having Kawhi Leonard, Paul George did give the Suns a run for their money, but the Suns were able to pull it out in 6 games as well. So here we have it, the NBA Finals matchup of 2021. Now, the Bucks have conquered the East for the first time since 1974 when they were led by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but they do not have him now. So yes, fast forward to the present. And for the Suns, this is the first time they've conquered the West since 1993, and where they faced MJ's Bulls. And if you watch The Last Dance, you know what happened then, because Charles Barkley won MVP that year, and Michael Jordan got really mad
that I didn't get the MVP that year, and they gave it to Charles Barkley. But with that said, okay, fine, you can have that. I'm gonna get this.
And
He took it personally.
So he took it personally. But 2021, both teams have kind of a big three. They've developed a big three. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton for the Suns, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Giannis Antetokounmpo for the Bucks. But anyway, to open the series right now, the Suns are favored at minus 180 to beat the Bucks, and the Bucks are at plus 145. So the Suns are kind of heavily favored right now. And why? Because Giannis Antetokounmpo is not healthy. He hyperextended his knee in Game 5 of the series against the Hawks, and he was unable to play in Game 6. So that's one of the biggest factors we have so far when talking about the series. I think it's very evident that when Giannis is on the floor, the Bucks, offensively, they're more efficient and they score a lot more points. Now, I'm not saying that the Bucks are unable to score without Giannis. They still have Chris Middleton, who's a very elite scorer, and Drew Holiday, can keep the Bucks in every game with his defense. But if Giannis isn't healthy for Game 1, if he isn't healthy for Game 1, okay, the Bucks will survive. But in the long run, if Giannis misses, 2 or 3 games, how much is that going to impact the Bucks in your opinion, Mike?
Yeah, so I think it's very different, as you mentioned. If he's out for Game 1, you can fluke into a win. But if he's out for 6 games or if he's injured for 6 games, that's just tough. Like, you need Giannis on the floor if you really want to be able to succeed long term. Just because, Giannis is their best player. Plain and simple, he initiates their offense, and everything they do defensively, too, is just much better with him. So if he's only gone 1 game or if he's, not 100% 1 game, I think they're fine. They might lose that game, but they can win 4 of the 6. But if he's out 3-4 games, I think they're screwed. And I think Suns could win it in 5 games pretty easy. I think the Bucks really need Giannis.
And this is why, despite the injury, I think Giannis is going to have to pull himself together a little bit and play at all costs. Now, Kevin Durant did try to do this when in the finals against the Raptors in 2019, but that's a different injury. And I don't think, an Achilles is a lot different than, an ACL. So I think Giannis got a little lucky with his knee injury that it was only a hyperextension. So I think we'll see Giannis in the series, definitely in Game 2, in my opinion. I think we'll see him in Game 2, maybe not Game 1. But according to some reports, if the Hawks had beaten the Bucks in Game 6, Giannis would have been cleared to play in Game 7. But we don't know if that's entirely true. But it just shows how important Giannis is to these Bucks. Like I said, Chris Middleton is an elite scorer, but I don't think you can rely on him to win you, big games when you need to win big games. That's where you need Giannis.
Yep, especially against Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and that elite Suns team. You need someone like Giannis to be there to help him out. Yeah.
Now, speaking of the big three of the Suns, and especially Chris Paul, we will see one of the best matchups of the playoffs so far between Drew Holiday and Chris Paul. Now, Mike, you have 3 important matchups for each team, I'm pretty sure.
I had 3 keys and then 2 important matchups that I wanted to hit on.
Okay.
So I'm going to get to it. My first matchup was Chris Paul versus Drew Holiday. I mean, it's an obvious guard matchup. It's the two elite guards who controlled the past series they've been in. Holiday was elite defensively in Game 6, and that essentially won the Bucks the series because he controlled everything on that end, and the Hawks kept trying to post him up, and that just doesn't work. And Chris Paul changed the entire team of the Suns. We've talked about it at length on this podcast, but he just has. Chris Paul is everything to this team. It's simple. And the winner, I think, of this series, this matchup, at least, is simple. Who can impose their will more? Who can help out their team more? And the winner of that matchup, I think, really helps out their team. Can Holiday limit Devin Booker if he has to guard him, or Chris Paul, and get his offensively? Or will Holiday just go invisible like he has at times in the playoffs? Like, he can't really be putting up 2 for 13 as he has been half the time in this playoffs. And as for Chris Paul, same thing. He's done so well with that mid-range pull-up this playoffs. I mean, it's just been absolutely money. He's been hitting it all day. And that shot's going to be there for him in this series too. He's torched the way, I'll hit on it a little later, but as I mentioned earlier on another podcast, the Bucks run a ton of drop coverage. That's what Chris Paul has just absolutely torched this summer, this playoffs in the pick and roll. So also the summer. The pull-ups will be there. Will he continue to take and make those shots? Or if he's missing, if he's off, how does that impact the series? How are they going to change how they defend him and whatnot? I think that matchup's really important. And then the next matchup I have.
Wait, hold on in your next matchup real quick. I just want to say something about Drew Holiday. Now, I was reading this, before we started our taping, but how lethal of a defender Drew Holiday was. Nate McMillan in the Hawks series had about 3 guards, to who was going to bring up the ball, and he wanted to make sure that whoever brought up the ball was not being guarded by Drew Holiday. It was Bogdanovich, Lou Williams, and Trae Young. And I watched a video, and in one of the videos, Drew Holiday made Lou Williams look foolish. Like, Lou Williams isn't the best ball handler, but Drew Holiday, stole the ball. And it was just one play, but you could just tell how, lethal of a defender that Drew Holiday can be. So that, if he can contain Chris Paul to, all right, just make him less of an impact for the Suns in a few of the games, that might play a very big role for the Bucks. Now your next matchup, Michael.
Yeah, I completely agree. Drew Holiday is crucial, but the next matchup is Brook Lopez versus DeAndre Ayton. The Bucks really like using Brook Lopez on the floor. I don't know why they like it so much, but they really feel just so much more comfortable with him there and them using him as the center and drop coverage and pick and rolls. They like having him to space the floor on offense too, and are okay sacrificing his, he's a little bit slow. They're okay sacrificing that lack of speed for everything else he brings them, the floor spacing, the ability to guard the paint, etc. There have been only 3 games in this series where Brook Lopez played under 24 minutes, half the game, and 2 of those were huge blowout wins over the Heat and Hawks, respectively. The other game was Game 1 against the Hawks, and they did end up losing. They really want to play him over half the game. They really like having him off the floor. And DeAndre Ayton has done a perfect job, essentially, of the exact opposite, of getting bigs who are slower and playing them off the floor. In the Lakers series, Drummond and Gasol were unplayable. They were unplayable. He made Nikola Jokic look incredibly average against the Nuggets, which how he made the MVP look isn't absolutely, it's massive. It was the reason they were able to sweep him. And he played DeMarcus Cousins off the floor in the Clippers series when Ty Lue wasn't an idiot and he made the clearly obvious decision to take him off the floor since he was getting torched defensively. Well, when Ty Lue left him in like the Ty Lue he is, the results were very obvious. He was a minus 14 in 14 minutes in Game 6, where the Suns really made their run was in the time when DeMarcus Cousins was in, and minus 11 in 13 minutes of Game 1. So again, Ty Lue didn't see that adjustment, did he? So yeah, we'll give him all the credit in the world for everything else, though, clearly. But he made Cousins look really bad. And the plus minus, if you didn't know, believe it or not, you want it to be positive, not negative. And the negatives Cousins had pretty bad numbers. So that's something you have to look at here. Something's going to have to give. Will DeAndre Ayton be able to just essentially dominate Brook Lopez as he's done to almost every other big he's gone against? Or will Brook Lopez be able to be good enough to stay on the floor, be effective in drop coverage, hit some jump shots, and just change the game? I think that's a matchup that not enough people are talking about that I think will really change this series, because the Bucks, they really like having Lopez on the floor. If he's getting torched by DeAndre Ayton, I don't know if they try to switch, go smaller with a guy like Bobby Portis or even Giannis at the 5. I really think you're going to try to run Brook Lopez on the floor a ton. So if DeAndre Ayton is effective and is just dominating him when Brook Lopez is on the floor, I think the Bucks are kind of screwed.
Well, I would agree with you here. I think it's evident that DeAndre Ayton is more athletic. He has more skills, because he's young. Brook Lopez is old, but I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but Brook Lopez likes to play, on the 3-point line a little bit.
Offensively, yes.
He likes to shoot threes. So if you get DeAndre Ayton out, if you're going to have Ayton out on Lopez, to contest these threes, then the Bucks might have their way with Giannis in the paint and be able to, Giannis might be able to dominate in the paint without Ayton being there. So the Bucks definitely have, offensively they kind of have an advantage if they're able to get Ayton out. The thing is, defensively, it's obvious that Ayton could be, a lot more stronger and take advantage of it. So do you put Bobby Portis on DeAndre Ayton defensively? It'll be interesting to see what Mike Budenholzer does. But what's your next matchup?
I think those are the two most important matchups of the series. Obviously, Giannis is going to go off. He's going to get his. Devin Booker is going to go off. He's going to get his. But I think those two matchups really highlight where this series will be won or lost. I think those are the variables that really can be altered in either direction.
What's your next key?
Ooh, we're going with my keys of the series. Excellent. I've got 3 keys for each team. First, for the Bucks, I'm going to go with my 3 keys for the Bucks. Number 1 is you got to get Chris Middleton going. Middleton splits in wins versus losses are massive. In losses, he's averaging 17.2 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 3.8 assists on 31.4% shooting from the field and 15.3% from 3. In the 5 games he's lost, he's been absolutely terrible. But in the wins, he's averaging 26 points per game, 8.4 rebounds per game, 5.6 assists on 49% shooting, and 41.8% from 3. I mean, those splits are massive. If the Bucks want to have any chance this series to win, they're going to have to get Chris Middleton going. That's something they really need to do. My second key, do you have anything to say on that, or do you want me to just keep going?
Yes, I do have something to say. Well, I just think, this is why Chris Middleton has kind of been, like a question to be, that second person to Giannis. He's not that consistent. You see in game 3, he had 38 points. It's one of the best games maybe in his lives, in my opinion. But then in game 4, he has 16 points. All right, he's been an all-star throughout his career, but there's questions that arise from that. If you're to be, a superstar in this league, you have to be consistent. And Chris Middleton, he has his on and off nights. And that's why I hate that Kendrick Perkins said that Chris Middleton was a Batman and Giannis was a Robin. You cannot have a Batman in this situation when you have 38 and then 16 in the next game. You have to be consistent. All right. If it's different, if he has 38 and maybe like 26, very different. Kendrick Perkins, you're an idiot for that. Giannis will always be that Batman to Chris Middleton. Next key, Michael.
Love it. I'm usually the one giving the rants. I love the passion. Yeah, that Middleton has to be consistent, though. You are completely correct with that. Next key. For the Bucks, they have to be able to adapt defensively. They have to be able to do multiple things defensively. The Suns have torched drop coverage all playoffs long, and that's what the Bucks primarily run. Brook Lopez drops low into the paint. They leave dribble pull-ups open. Chris Paul's been knocking those down all series. Devin Booker's been knocking anything he wants down all series. And the Bucks did try to switch a little bit against the Hawks, and they were really lucky. The Hawks just didn't really do well against switches. As I mentioned, they tried to post up Drew Holiday rather than attacking the bigs on the perimeter, and Holiday's elite defensively, so that's a terrible idea. The Bucks need to have multiple plans defensively if they do want to win this series. They need to be able to, okay, we can run drop coverage here. Oh, there's another pick and roll. Okay, we can switch that. We can switch smaller guards. We can crash the paint. We can guard shooters. They have to be able to adapt defensively and find what's working. If they stick with just the switches or just running drop coverage or just those two, they're going to get torched all series. I think that's something, a little more basketball nerd stuff, but I think that's something they really need to correct.
Well, I have nothing there. Next key.
And, the last key, pretty obvious, a little tongue-in-cheek, but Giannis needs to be healthy. Straight up, you're not winning the series if Giannis isn't healthy. Get him healthy, make sure he's fine, and make sure he's playing at 100%. If he's playing at 50%, you're probably better having one of your bench warmers in. Probably better having Pat Connaughton do whatever Pat Connaughton does. So just get Giannis healthy.
Yeah. Michael, you're definitely right about the Giannis part, but one person that we haven't really talked about during this podcast is Devin Booker. And now that doesn't mean that Devin Booker won't make an impact in the series. He definitely will be, but it just shows that, all right, the Suns' big 3, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. We've talked about 2 matchups, Chris Paul, and DeAndre Ayton. So who's gonna guard Devin Booker? And, if the Bucks don't have an answer for Devin Booker, they're going to be in trouble for the whole series because Devin Booker is is obviously, I think, the best scorer on the Suns. And, he's got so many moves, so many skills that, he's turning into, superstar. Now I'm pretty sure Stephen A. Smith that says he's, on his way to being the next Kobe. Now there's no one. That was a little, because I don't think there's, going to be another Kobe. But Devin Booker definitely could, just cook the Bucks, and the Bucks could be in trouble if they don't, at least contain Booker. Now in the Lakers series, it was obvious that Booker had some off nights, but the Bucks are going to have some of those nights when Booker isn't as efficient, isn't going to shoot well, and the Bucks are going to have to take advantage. So Devin Booker is a very important factor in this series. He's just, Devin Booker is going to be Devin Booker, like Michael loves to say.
Yeah, exactly. Devin Booker is Devin Booker. You know what you're getting out of Devin Booker. I mean, over the playoffs, he's averaging 27 points per game, 6.4 rebounds, 4.8 assists on 44% shooting. I mean, dude's a beast. You know what you're getting out of Devin Booker. You know he's consistent. He'll have some nights where he isn't the greatest, sure, but he is Devin Booker. Devin Booker does what Devin Booker does. It's just, I mean, there isn't too much more to add. He's just so good that you can't really talk about anything. I mean, everything he does without disrespecting him almost, because he's that good. So I mean, there's nothing more to add on that. He's just Devin Booker. He's that good. Well,
I think this series has the possibility of being a great series. In the regular season, the Suns were able to go 2-0 against the Bucks, but they were both 1-point wins. One of them was 128-127 in overtime. So it'd be awesome to see, those close games. And, I'm honestly pretty excited for the series. So, and, yes, I really hope Giannis is healthy. And if Giannis isn't healthy, then it could be, a one-sided series. But if Giannis is healthy, this could be, one of the best finals we've seen in past years. But, Mike, anything else to say?
I still got 3 keys to the series for the Suns. Let's be real. I'm a fair and balanced person on both sides, so I'll go there. But yeah, you're correct. I think the series will be great if Giannis isn't there. I mean, is there, but if he isn't, you're going to probably just stop watching because these games are going to be blowouts. But for the Suns, number one, I've mentioned it at length, but they have to attack drop coverage. They have to do what they've been doing all series, force the Bucks to switch, force the Bucks to defend you differently, take them out of the way they like defending. 2, they got to control the tempo. Phoenix has done pretty well at that in the playoffs, actually. But in the regular season, the Bucks were the 6th fastest-paced team in the NBA, while the Suns were the 5th slowest. Suns got to make sure they play their game. They're not getting into the game the Bucks want to play. And while the tempos have been much closer in the playoffs, you still want to make sure you are playing your game and not trying to beat the Bucks at their own game. I think that's something they really need to do. And lastly, they got to score off turnovers. I mean, plain and simple, the Bucks are awful at this. They give up an average of 15.2 points per game off turnovers in this playoffs, which is a ton. The only teams that were worse in the playoffs were the Lakers, Celtics, and Jazz. So you have to make sure that when the Bucks turn the ball over, you make them pay for that, because the Bucks are going to turn the ball over sometimes. They do some kind of weird, dumb things at times. Take advantage of those moments. Make the Bucks have to play almost perfect to beat you. Attack the drop coverage. Stop them there. Control the tempo. Score off turnovers. 3 keys for the Suns, and a series that I think should be a very fun one.
Well, I remember, I think in our first episode, when we were talking about that Bucks Heat series, you talked about the tempo as well, about how Miami played very slow.
Yep.
And, I don't think the Bucks really had a problem with that as they, swept.
I don't know. The Heat weren't able to control the tempo at all. It was the Bucks game, however the Bucks wanted to play it.
But yes, the Suns are a lot better than the Heat, obviously. And so, yeah. But Michael, I'm sorry I forgot about the Suns keys. But
I wow people at times. I mean, people they step into the room with me and they're like, "Oh my God, it's the Michael DeRosa." So I do understand.
Yes, he's godlike, everyone. He is god.
You are all of you beneath me. I am a god, you dull creature.
But anyway, that kind of does it for our NBA Finals preview. I'll give a little shout out to end things. I'll shout out Mississippi State for winning the College World Series, and despite not playing well in game 1 where they lost, they were able to basically cook the crap out of Vanderbilt in games 2 and 3. Vanderbilt did not show up defensively. They walked a bunch of batters, and it was not the best College World Series championship, series. So, but shout out to Mississippi State. It's their first College World or college baseball title, but their team was definitely talented enough. And it was an all SEC final, I will say that, but my teams, Arkansas, didn't make it. Well, in the College World Series, Vanderbilt didn't make it, but who else? Who did I have?
Vanderbilt, Tennessee.
Tennessee went
and-
0-2. Ugh,
Yeah.
Tennessee didn't play well. And who else? There's one more team.
I think it was Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Arkansas, if I remember correctly.
Well, Arkansas didn't make it out of the Super Regional, but NC State. NC State's a whole nother conversation. But NC State, if they had not gotten COVID, honestly probably would have beaten Vanderbilt and given Mississippi State a run for their money. But Mississippi State ended up winning, and congrats to them. Michael, any shout outs?
I got to shout out Slick Rick Pitino. Yeah, he was the head coach of the Greek national team. And first of all, I don't know how he got that job. I think it was just because he's coaching in Greece and he's Rick Pitino. You just give him that stuff.
Mhm.
But he coached the Greek national team without the Antetokounmpos to 1 win away from qualifying for the Olympics. That would have been cool to see Slick Rick in the Olympics. But
Really?
shout out to him. You were 1 win away, Rick. 1 win away. Just
Who'd they lose to?
the Czech Republic. So also shout out
What?
Czech Republic.
Oh.
They made the Olympics. Saturansky and co.
Okay. All right. Well, if they had the Antetokounmpos, that would have been very
Oh,
interesting.
they would have made it easy. Slick Rick doesn't lose games. He's a great. I mean, for all the man he is, which, yeah, we'll put it just like that. He's an excellent basketball coach. He is an excellent coach. So, got to give him credit there.
If people don't know, Rick Pitino coached Louisville then he won. Didn't he win 2 national championships with them?
I don't know. Well, he won one, I know for sure, but it was vacated.
Well, technically, he didn't win national championships,
Yeah,
but
he didn't win it. He might have won one with Kentucky, actually.
yeah, and I think he did win one with Kentucky. But as you know, as we're talking about this, Rick Pitino is a very impressive coach.
She's coaching at Iona now, which is funny.
Hey, made the tournament,
Yeah.
even though they got cooked by Alabama. Well,
They
actually,
gave him a
no,
run for the money in the first half.
they did in the first half, yes, but that's how half the college first round
Yep.
games go. But anyway, thank you guys for joining us, and we'll be back later this week with a weekday episode.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, thank you for joining.
Peace.